They were the SS death squads who during World War II were responsible for the executions of around 2 million people. The Einsatzgruppe were under the direction of the head of the SS, Heinrich Himmler, and the Butcher of Prague, Reinhard Heydrich, and they operated in many different countries in Eastern Europe. Wherever the Wehrmacht went, the Einsatzgruppe were close behind, and their method of execution, using gunshot, saw many people forced to dig their own graves, with the firing squad stood on the edge of the pit, with their rifles and weapons ready. It was systematic slaughter, but Hitler had a plan to even establish an Einsatzgruppe death squad inside of Britain, following his invasion of the nation. Operation Sealion was the code name for the German invasion of Britain, and it did not go ahead, but it is terrifying to think that the death squads were ready to be used inside of Britain. Welcome to The Untold Past. To support our channel, please make sure to subscribe. The method of slaughter with the Einsatzgruppen saw them arrive in towns and settlements following the German army conquering lands, and they then gathered up civilians and sorted them. Those who were earmarked for execution were walked to the edge of the settlement, and they were forced to dig large pits, and in these the executioners would patrol and take many victims. In small groups, people were then forced to go into the pit, where either a firing squad stood on the edge, ready to shoot, or there was a sole executioner inside the pit with his pistol, telling people to lie face down. With this, the executioner then pressed his weapon on the nape of the neck of the victim and fired. This continued all day long, and thousands of people were executed at a time, and still today many of the victims lie inside of mass graves. But one of Hitler's biggest plans during the Second World War was to consider the invasion of Britain. Operation Sealion, as it was codenamed, was a detailed plan drawn up by military officials to eliminate the UK as a base of military operations against the Axis forces. Inside of the plans were detailed descriptions of how the Germans would cross the Channel and how they would then move throughout the nation. It was during the Battle of Britain with the Luftwaffe defeat that forced Hitler's hand to shelve his invasion plans, and it was postponed indefinitely on the 17th of September 1940. But inside of the plans for the invasion of Britain was a terrifying draft that an Einsatzgruppe unit would be based in the UK. The man appointed to command this would have been SS Standartenführer Dr. Franz Six. He was in 1940 appointed to direct state police operations in the UK following the German invasion, and he was important to the Nazi plans to impose their rule in Britain and their policies. Six was an experienced Nazi, and he was to become the SD commander of Britain, and his headquarters would be based in London, and he was also to have regional task forces and headquarters in Liverpool, Manchester, Birmingham and Edinburgh. His job to begin with would have been to hunt down 2,820 people who were listed inside of the Black Book, those who were to be rounded up and seized by the Nazi forces. But operations from 6 locations, London, Manchester, Birmingham, Bristol, Liverpool, and either Edinburgh or Glasgow, would have been made, and Einsatzgruppe commandos, the group of Nazi executioners, and the death squads would have conducted similar slaughterous operations on British soil as they were doing in other European lands. These death squads would have been ordered to eliminate any member of civilian resistance groups or anyone who was suspected of taking up arms against the Germans, but also horrifically they would have been ordered to round up Jewish people living inside of Britain and to then execute them in mass executions, as was seen in other countries. The Einsatzgruppe in Britain were as mentioned to be overseen by Dr. Franz Six, but these units were never pushed into active service, as the plans for Operation Sealion were never put into action. They would have executed thousands of people on British soil. Franz Six was later assigned as the chief of the Vorkommando Moscow, a group under the command of Einsatzgruppe B, and he in this position oversaw the executions of many people in the Soviet Union following Operation Barbarossa. He was at the end of the war brought to the Einsatzgruppe trial, and was sentenced to eventually 10 years, and only saw 7.5 years behind bars. It's terrifying to think that if Hitler would have pushed forward with his plans to launch the invasion, that his death squads would have come over with the intention to slaughter and execute those targeted by the Nazis and also those who resisted. But the story of the potential Einsatzgruppe units of Britain is one which is not the most well known. Thanks for watching. To support our channel, please make sure to subscribe, and once again, Thank you so much for watching.